And I think it's fitting to get started with the first overall pick in the 2022 draft. That is going to be Paolo Banchero for the Orlando Magic. And this was an interesting draft, Avi, because there were three players that were kind of rumored to go number one overall between Chet, Paolo, and Jabari Smith Jr., who we will talk about in a few minutes. But all of these guys are in the mix. Paolo was selected. Some people saw it coming, some didn't. Myself, I was kind of on the fence about who they were going to select for this for that number one pick. But so far, the returns have been very positive when it comes to Paolo's performance. So, as I noted before, number one overall pick. He's made strides for the Magic. His scoring is up this season, about 22.8 points a game, up from 20 last season. The 2-point percentage is really similar, a slight increase there. But the big difference is the 3-point percentage for him so far. So he's up about 6% on 3-pointers as opposed to last season so far. And he's keeping his volume down. It's only about 4 per game. He's not launching threes at a high clip. But to use a phrase, Avi, that you've used in the past, he knows how his bread is buttered. He knows where to get his shots at. He knows where he likes to make his money. He's getting into the mid-range. He's getting into the paint. He's a guy that has a large frame. Like, we're talking about a 4 that has the size of like a smaller 5, honestly.
Yeah.
You're thinking about a guy that's like 6'9", 6'10", 250. Serious muscle, serious mass. He can get downhill. He can draw fouls. 7 free throws a game for a guy that's in his second year is nothing to sneeze at. He's already, above average in that regard, able to draw fouls. He needs to work on the efficiency a little bit. When you talk about his free throw shooting, it's down from 74% last season to 69%. You want to see a guy like that at least in the mid-70s, I would say. You want to see him convert those easy opportunities. If he's going to be such a magnet for fouls, he needs to convert more of those free throws. He's also pretty inefficient as a 2-point shooter right now. He is getting better, though. He's at about 40% as opposed to last season that was about 36%. So he's making strides. He's making moves in that regard. And for him, I also think he's becoming a little bit better of a passer, recognizing that he is the caliber of player already that's going to command double teams. So there are going to be opportunities to find a Jonathan Isaac, to find a Jalen Suggs, to find a Franz Wagner when they're open. And, nothing crazy, but his assist percentage is up from 17% last season to about 23% this season. Assists per game are up 3.7 rookie year, 4.9, almost 5 this season. So for a forward, 5 to 6 assists per game is a very healthy mark to be at. So around the margins, he needs to clean up his game a little bit. But overall, I mean, it's hard not to be impressed by the play of a guy that the Magic picked to be a franchise player. He's kind of delivered in that regard. He's a guy that you can plug in at the 4, plug in at the 5. He's even played some 3 a little bit this season because they're such a big team. Like, he can play all these different positions. They're pretty versatile, the Magic. So I like how he's fit in. I like how the Magic utilize him. And I like how he's understanding where he's going to make his money, really be the most effective player. So once the efficiency rises, he gets more experience, he sees more coverages, he knows where to get his shots even better than he is now. Man, destructive force. Love his game, man.
Love his game too. And at the same time, I feel like as much as the Magic have let him kind of develop his game and almost roam in a way where he has more opportunities than most power forwards or small forwards would be, considered, depending what you consider his position, he has more freedom to create shots than most. But I feel like in a way that's actually overtaxed him. It makes sense because this Magic team, if you look at it, it really doesn't have much shot creation. On many nights, it really does feel like, hey, Paolo and Franz, you figure something out. Mo just hit some threes. Goga block some shots. Jalen Suggs be what you are, which is a chaos agent, and we'll figure something out.
Oh yeah.
But sustainably, in terms of his long-term development, I think the one thing right now, other than the shot, which we've already discussed, it's a decent shot, but it still feels like there's a little bit of a catapult action when he's going into his pull-up, which kind of slows down the release and neutralizes its effectiveness. But I think the biggest thing for him is the burst as a driver. Right now, he is very inefficient as a driver. According to NBA.com, on a large volume of drives, he is shooting 40.8%. which is kind of similar to how we were discussing Scoot. And when I
Yeah.
watch the two, I almost feel like I'm watching a bigger version of Scoot in some ways. I'll explain. Both of them horizontally can cover a lot of ground, but then
Mhm.
when you're asking them to finish, the layup package is a little bit questionable, and they're having trouble right now turning that horizontal momentum into vertical explosiveness. And so what we see is Paulo, he's huge. He can burst by people a little bit, but mostly he has that huge frame. He can push his way around, generate strong driving angles, and get right to the rim. But then when he encounters a shot blocker and he's trying to go up, he just gets almost no lift, and he tries doing some floaters, layups that don't really have a chance, and that's what's kind of keeping his efficiency down right now. That's
Right.
that's kind of where he's lacking. I don't know how solvable that is. So my hope would be that not on a different team, on this team, as they add more shot creation over time, as they try to take their next step, maybe he slots in better as a two, where he can just attack closeouts or attack even more open lanes where maybe the shot blocker has been pulled out because there's more spacing around him. Just something to make it easier so that his efficiency can rise and his overall effectiveness as a impactful player for winning increases.
I want to go back to the point you made about the Magic's roster in general.
Yeah.
When you think about who he's playing next to, I mean, you made a great point. He's playing next to a Jalen Suggs, Jonathan Isaac, Wendell Carter Jr., Markel Fultz. None of these players command respect beyond the 3-point line on a consistent basis. So for Paolo, what's that going to do? That's going to constrain driving lanes. That's going to have to. It forces him into tougher shots. It's almost like it's similar to what we talked about with Wemby a little bit in terms of the type of shots he takes. He has more talented teammates, Paolo does, but
Yeah.
his teammates are not going to stretch the floor. They're not going to create floor balance. A lot of them are similar to Paolo in that they make their money inside the arc. So they're going to get to the rim. They're going to pull up for a lot of 2-pointers. They like to draw fouls. So there is a little bit of an overlap there in that team in terms of offensive production. And you look at the Magic's offensive rating in general. I mean, they in the past several years they never ranked as an even average offensive team. They've always been below average, bottom third. And this year it's the same thing. They're not a strong offensive team. So you need more shot creation. You need more spacing. That's going to be the next step of the evolution of the Orlando Magic. And then subsequently, like you said, it's going to improve Paolo's his workload, his the types of shots he generates. I mean, that mark you gave on what he's shooting near the rim is it's awful, honestly, for a guy like that. The type of frame he has, uh,
Yeah.
cleaning the glass paints a similar picture. I mean, in the short mid range, he's at 38%, 29th percentile. At the rim, they have him at 61, which is the 24th percentile among guys in his type of position as a forward. So, yeah, I mean, definitely needs to improve. I think there's a little bit of room for improvement on his front, just individually as a player. I mean, he's a second year guy. He's not going to have it all figured out. However, if the team's construction was a little bit more fluid, it worked more seamlessly around him, it would probably make him even more efficient. So it works on both sides. They need to be better about the type of players they put around him, like a Buddy Hield type of player. I think
Yes.
they were rumored to be looking to trade for a guy like him, or if not, Buddy Hield himself. So the guys like that for this team, I think, would help a ton. Like a more of a floor spacing five, like a Miles Turner type, would help a ton. Instead of having Goga Batadze in the middle, just clogging things up, it's redundant. I think that's kind of like the main message we're trying to kind of convey to all the listeners out there. So there's room for improvement for sure. I can't wait to see what future iterations of Magic look like. But for now, it's just kind of tough sledding. He's going to be a very positive offensive player, but a flawed one in that he needs a lot of attempts to get his points, and it kind of drags down the ceiling of the Magic overall.
Total agreement. I mean, right now, if you look at cleaning the glass, Orlando is 24th in the league as an offense, but they're third in the league on defense because of the personnel they have.
Yeah.
Almost all their personnel is excellent on defense. In terms of shot making from the perimeter, the one guy who I think they kind of held hopes for was Cole Anthony. But as a perimeter shooter right now, like over the course of his career, he hasn't really brought it in terms of percentages and in terms of volume. He's still kind of more of an inside out player where they need more outside in players, people whose game starts at the perimeter and then works its way in. They don't have enough of those right now, and that's kind of why their offense is tanking a little bit.
But that's kind of the picture of the Magic. They made great strides this season. Paolo has as well, but there's still food on the table.
Yep.
So they'll address that in future seasons, and they're going to be forced to reckon with for a long time. They have a great young core all the way down the spectrum. They just need a little bit better guard play, a little bit better shot creation.